Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting, the Coney County Council to order, December 16th, 2022, a little after 10 a.m. First, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Root?
Yes, sir.
Please give our invocation.
Please pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you for this new day that you've made. It wasn't guaranteed to us, but you've given it to us as a gift. Help us to use it wisely, to do our best to do good, to love our neighbor, and have that reflected in our actions and in this meeting. So we need your wisdom, your selflessness, and particularly at this time of year when we focus in on what is ultimate truth and ultimate good, that we follow that example of sacrifice, of selflessness, of love. Help that be embedded in our hearts and guide our minds in this meeting and throughout this season. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Davis, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Okay, please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we have the approval of our December 6th, 2022 regular meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
Any changes or additions to those minutes? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, next up, we have our December 7th, 2022 special
Chairman?
meeting minutes. to approve.
Did you get Mr. Elliott?
Mr. Elliott?
I can't hear.
Okay.
We're going to move him.
All right, I'm gonna move you right quick.
Put him out here. He's on the phone.
Actually, I'll put him here. If we lose him, y'all can help us get it back.
So did you vote?
Yeah, but not yet.
Mr. Elliott, did you vote to approve the minutes?
Yes, I did. Aye.
Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
All right, next up, we have the approval of minutes for December 7th, 2022 special meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Second.
Any alterations to the minutes as presented? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This is John Elliott. Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right.
All right. As you all probably know, I'm not John Elliott. I'm the vice chair. Mr. Elliott had a death in his family, and he's traveling today to attend a funeral. So I have been handed the reins as the last meeting, which is there's an awful lot of people here for a Friday morning. And I think that there is a bit, actually probably a lot of confusion about one of the ordinances, if I had to guess, is regarding lot density. And I've mentioned to Mr. Root during his comments, if he could please explain the effect of this ordinance, so that everyone understands what it actually, the effect would be if it's passed. So Mr. Root, if you don't mind, in addition to any other comments you have, could you please explain to the public the intent behind this ordinance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to. As a housekeeping matter, could we first get a motion to amend the agenda to remove second reading of ordinance 2022-32? The but project attorneys are not ready to go forward with second reading at this time.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
This is John Elliott. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the other matter you asked me to comment on is ordinance 2022-24. This relates to a change in the density requirements within the lake overlay. And I'll just read the essential portion of that ordinance as it's presented for third reading, so if it passes today, it'll pass and become the law of the county. As it reads now, presented for third reading, lots that are created subsequent to the effective date of this ordinance and which exist in whole or in part within 200 feet of the full pond contour of Lake Kiowee or Lake Jocassee shall be no less than 1/2 acre in size with a maximum density of one dwelling unit per 1/2 acre. So that's the new provision, and Mr. Elliott made this motion a couple months ago, now I believe, the purpose of which was to essentially ostensibly within, for the, lakefront lots, that there be created a minimum lot size of 1/2 acre. As it's written now, circumvent is not the right word, but you could have, based on a net density concept, lakefront lots that are essentially less than 1/2 acre. So, Mr. Elliott made that motion. The second part of the ordinance states that lots located fully within the remaining boundaries of the Lake Overlay District, so that's remaining 550 feet, are limited to a net density of no greater than 2 dwelling units per acre. That's the same as it's been, so there's no change in that. The wording that is the difference is the first part I read, which was to make really more restrictive, no other way to term it, lakefront lots within 200 feet, such that you have at least 1/2 acre. Obviously, this is just going forward. But that was Mr. Elliott's intent, and that's the way it reads. And I don't know if there's confusion. Glad y'all are here. I'm assuming you saw our signs and all of our mailings. We tried to get notice out as best we could for this, because I know it's a matter of importance to a lot of people. So,
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Ms. Brock, do you have any comments?
I'm going to echo Mr. Root. Thank you all for being here. It's nice to see public participation in an otherwise quiet setting on a Friday morning for a special meeting. Just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. May you stay warm next week.
Thank you, Ms. Brock.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
It is indeed good to see you all here. Next, we have our public comment session, and you have 4 minutes to speak. When 3 minutes have elapsed, I'll hold this up, saying you have 1 minute left. And then when your time expires, hold this up, and please stop speaking at that point, just in respect to the other folks who would like to speak. All right. First, we have James Thomas Jr. Jim Thomas, if you'd like to speak, Mr. Thomas, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Assistant Chair, or whatever, Vice Chair. I am a resident of the Pinnacle Point community, which is a lakefront community that was developed by the Duke Resources when the lake was initially developed. And in their restrictions or their covenants, it did state the 1/2 acre minimum size. And I think going forward, that's kind of been what's expected, and the overlay, as I understand it, address that. And to me, this is simply clarifying what I think the intent was initially, and it just says 2 per acre. And I think most everybody has read that to read the density of one home per 1/2 acre. In addition to that, it's my understanding that with septic requirements, usually require at least that much for a system, and most of those lots around the lake are on septic. But we feel like that was certainly reasonable. It's a beautiful lake. It's a wonderful place to live, and we feel like that those rules in place should be codified so that there's no misunderstanding about the size. As has been pointed out, this is the norm that's been going on, for a good while, and the lake overlay seemed to address that, but we feel like the wording needs to be changed to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Kane,
Yes.
if I could just make a preliminary comment, so, because a lot of folks are new to the meeting, perhaps haven't been here before. Right at this point, we're just having public comments. You certainly can talk about the lake overlay amendment, but this is just general public comments about any issue that's on your heart, pretty much. Obviously, there's some confines within that. But we'll have the formal public hearing on the lake overlay ordinance just after this. Again, you can speak at either time, but really that public hearing for record purposes, it'd be great if you're gonna comment on that ordinance to do it during the public hearing for that, which will be just right after this, after council member comments. That's all I wanted to say.
Mr. Root, would it be appropriate to offer to move some of the public comments to the public hearing sheet?
It would be.
Okay. We've only got 40 for the public hearing, so we're gonna be here for a while. So should I offer Mr. Thomas the opportunity to speak during the public hearing? Mr. Thomas, would you like to restate your comments during the public hearing?
I'll reserve that ability depending on what I hear from other comments. Is that appropriate?
Certainly.
All right, I'm gonna put your name down on this list,
I
just,
believe it's on the list, I think.
oh, did you sign up from both sheets?
I did.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. All right, next we have Doyle Carr.
Oh, I'm in the same situation as the other gentleman. It's for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. All right, next we have Matthew Durham.
I'm Matthew Durham from Mountain Rest. I just came to speak on a previous issue, the airport closure and the timing of it. And I know there was some concern, and Mr. Hart was, I think, the only one to endorse it. And then when he voted, he wasn't necessarily voting against the grant money, but against the process. And like him, I find it hard to believe it was completely unknown prior to the budget being passed. But you know, we added $300,000 versus working it into a budget. And when we amended the budget, we didn't also amend the part of the airport budget that accounted for it being closed, the revenue and the expenses that wouldn't have been there. But I talked to Mr. Dan Sturter, he's District 2's representative on the Aeronautical Commission, a very sharp individual. And he backed up the administration's decision to close when they did. And but my concern is the Aeronautical Commission hasn't met since April of 2020. And that's in violation of county ordinances. The county ordinance says the county aeronautical commission shall meet at least once per month. And that's a shall, not a may. And the primary role is to advise the council on operations of the airport, to help in budgetary items of the airport. And that's a valuable resource. And going into a new year, we need to look at, you know, we don't need to violate the ordinance. If we're not gonna have them meet, then change the ordinance. But I don't advise on that. I advise on using their expertise, because we can't be experts on everything. And stand that committee back up in 2023. Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Doug Hettinger.
Yes,
Hettinger?
hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm like the other gentleman, I signed both sheets and I'll reserve my comments.
Oh, okay, all right, thank you, sir. That concludes public comment. Any council member comments?
Mr. Chair, since this will be the last meeting we have, I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Yeah, might as well, you know, so, when we schedule special meetings, you know, this is a 10 a.m. meeting. I am very pleased to see the number of attendees here. Oftentimes when we schedule special meetings, we actually have better attendance than we do at, some of our council meetings. So appreciate all y'all being here and and follow along with what's going on. Thank you to the county staff for the posting and the signs and the mailings and stuff like that. Appreciate council's emphasis on making sure that we keep our public informed. You know, I grew up in this county and don't remember the amount of information that we've got that's been pushed out there from signage and mailings and stuff like that. So I'll reserve my comments on the, I'll reserve my comments on that lot density, and I'll pretty much stick with what I've been to, but when we get to that reading. But thankful all y'all are here today, and I do want to take this time to thank Mr. Kane for his service. Nothing better than your last meeting being the chairman and leading the meeting or the vice chairman leading the meeting today. So I appreciate all your service for these years to this county, and I'm grateful for all the service that council has provided to the citizens this year. Mr. Hart, Mr. Elliott, and Mr. Durham, thank you. And thank you to staff as well.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and yes, when Mr. Elliott asked if I was going to be at the meeting, I said I would, and I had no idea all you would be here as well. I thought it'd be a quick meeting. We have an Oconee Economic Alliance board meeting that started at the same time, and I was kind of upset about missing that. And then I saw the agenda, and it's action-packed, which is why y'all are here. So yes, this is my last meeting. It's our last meeting of the year and my last meeting of my term. So, thank you for all for coming, and I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope you all stay very safe over the holidays. As I tell everybody, look out for the other guy. Mr. Elliott, I'm sorry. Do you have anything? You still with us, John?
Yep, I'm here. No, I don't, but thank you.
All right. Next, we'll move into public hearing for ordinance 2022-24. And like I said, we do have 40 people signed up, all for that ordinance. No one has signed up for the other public hearings. So grab a Snickers. We might be here for a while. I think that's how it goes. All right, first up on the list is Richard Summer.
Mr. Chairman, can I move Mr. Elliott to the stand so he can hear public comment?
Sure. Yeah, that's not going to cause any feedback or anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Brock, is that okay with you? I don't think the mic needs to move until it comes time for us, but at least the.
Thank you.
Selfies.
Good morning. My name is Rick Summer. I live in South Oak Point, which is just off of South Cove Road. I want to see the county's overlay, the lake overlay, such that the requirement for lot density is applied uniformly throughout the overlay. The builder has the option, if he has a lot with a limited amount of lake frontage and a large amount of inland acreage, to manipulate the rule in such a way to put a more denser development in. The overlay should protect us from crowding. I'm not against development, and it's natural for the builder to try to maximize his profits by getting as many homes into his parcel as he can. However, this ordinance right now allows him to manipulate the rules in such a way to put more homes in there than he's actually entitled to. And I would like to see the wording amended such that everything is applied uniform across the lake overlay. So I hope you'll consider that idea, which will in the end allow our lake overlay to fulfill its function of protecting us from crowding. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Teresa Spicer.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'd like to share two things. First, I'm asking you to vote yes on this proposed ordinance change 2022-24. This proposal was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission within moments after it was presented to the Commission. This revision will reduce the risk of septic fields being created and prevent shore erosion. This proposal will protect the scenic character of the lake, which is one of the treasures of Oconee County. Second, I'd like to thank Councilman Kane for the time that he spent with me, for listening to me, and for being a good sounding board. I really appreciate you fitting me into your schedule. I hope this isn't goodbye, but I hope it's more like see you later. Best wishes to you and your family. Merry Christmas.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Spicer, will you state your name for the record? I didn't hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you state her name?
No.
Teresa Spicer.
Thank you. Just for records.
Yeah.
All right, next we have John Agar.
Good morning, gentlemen. For the record, my name is John Agar, and I live in the Indian Oaks development. It's one of the older developments off of South Cove Road that was built, and it was a non-crescent development. This morning, I'm here to speak in favor of the ordinance with regard to the half-acre lot minimum. And I'd like to speak with regard to the one of the points that the previous speaker made, that when we consider the Lake Keowee, we often think of the cooling of the atomic power plant on the lake, the hydro plant up at the dam at Jocassee, and we think of all the recreation that goes on with the lake. But more important, the lake is a source of water for most of the community surrounding the lake, and also for the city of Greenville. And I think it's very important that we take care of the density with regard to the lakefront properties, and I think this is a big step in that direction. And I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that you'll vote positively for this ordinance. Thank you, and have a Merry Christmas.
All right. Next up, we have Martha Steele. Jennifer, do you have another pen? My pen's... That's right. Oh, you don't? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman and County Councilman. My name is Martha Steele. I live in Seneca, South Carolina. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Advocates for Quality Development. Gary Owens, our president, had a death in the family and is traveling for the funeral. AQD is a not-for-profit organization based in Oconee County, founded in 2006. We represent an estimated 5,000 residents of Oconee County, either through being individual members, family members, or members as part of our many HOA member communities. Our mission is to support projects, legislation, and development that enhance the overall quality of life for residents. We work in both Oconee and Pickens counties to protect our watershed, public safety, and the environment. I'm here today to support and ask you to approve the revision in the lake overlay language to specify that the minimum size for new shoreline lots is 1/2 acre on Lake Keowee and Lake Jocassee. AQD and our members recognize the good work that has been done by our Planning Commission and our County Council to bring this amended language to the lake overlay. For all interested parties, whether it's residents that live on the lake, county residents who are recreational boaters, or county residents who use the lake for fishing or other recreation, this lake overlay revision is important. It will reduce the risk of more septic systems being constructed. It will decrease the risk of shoreline erosion, and it will decrease sediment runoff into the lake. All of these outcomes are critically important to all residents of Oconee County and to the continued excellent quality of water on Lake Keowee and Lake Jocassee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today.
Next, we have John Steele.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Councilman. I'm John Steele from the subdivision of Kiwi, and I am speaking on behalf of more than 340 residents of my subdivision to support and ask you to approve the revision in the lake overlay language to specify that the minority size of the shoreline lot is 1/2 acre on Lake Kiwi and Jocassee. Thank you for the opportunity.
Next, we have Jim Bedow, or Bedow, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
Good morning. I'm Jim Bedow, and I'm president of the Homeowners Association for South Oak Point. And with the unanimous approval of our board, I represent the property owners in our neighborhood. We're pleased that the vast majority of property around the lake is primarily residential, and most of those lots are at least 1/2 an acre. The lake overlay specifies a maximum density of 2 lots per acre, which implies a lot size of 1/2 an acre. We applaud the requirement for a 1/2 acre lot size in order to minimize the environmental impact on the lake. But we are pleased that the lake is developed to date with the majority of the lots being 1/2 an acre. This amendment is a reasonable change consistent with the lot size restrictions in many zoning classifications around the county. These are appropriate for the character of the areas they cover. We implore you to vote yes on this ordinance. Thank you.
Next, we have Linda Lovely.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Linda Lovely. I live in Beacon Shores. I am 75 years old, and I have no problems with smaller lots. They just shouldn't be on the shoreline. I would actually, in some time, think that as I age, I might want a smaller lot. But I really don't want them on the shoreline. I'm also a swimmer. I like to swim in the lake. I like the quality of the lake. And I can see that if we have smaller lots on the shoreline, it's going to be more runoff during storms. It's going to be more impervious surfaces. It's going to be more view lanes, which go through the buffer. And we're going to have more potential pollution sources. So please do vote for this change in the ordinance to make sure that if we have smaller lots, they are not on the lake, but further back in the development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Thomas Holcomb.
I must have signed up for something I didn't expect. I'm good.
Okay. Store pros. I've done that before. Next, we have Lucretia Morgan.
Hi, my name is Lucretia Morgan, and I live on Lake Kiwi. I'm opposed to removing the density requirements for multi-family development within the boundary of the overlay. The change removes no single-family or multi-family development shall have a net density greater than 2 dwelling units per acre within the boundary of the overlay. I am not opposed to the lot size requirement. Lot size and development density are not the same requirement. I expressed my concerns to County Council in an email on 11/15/22. Several of my questions have not been answered, and they've either been ignored or omitted by the reading of my letter. So please address the following questions. What is driving this change, and why is there a need to only protect a small portion of the overlay? Why not the entire 750 feet? Has there been an environmental impact study done in relation to this change? Why is multifamily development being removed and the density is no longer specified as net or gross on the first 200 feet. Also, there are developments in process. If this passes, does it allow these developments to retroactively apply? Or how is that moving forward with developments that are already proposed? I, along with many other members of the public, oppose any change that allows an increase in density. This opposition is due to inadequate infrastructure in Oconee County. Removing ordinance requirements that increase density in our county is a trend direction that will have lasting impacts. Thank you for considering my concerns, and I look forward to you addressing during today's meeting.
Thank you. I believe, I can't really read this. I think it says Gordon, perhaps.
Gordon Flowers?
That may be me. Thank you very much for having this meeting. I appreciate it. My name is Gordon Howard. Live in Kiwi Plantation. All right, and I'm not going to take this any longer. I support the comments that have been before in favor of this amendment to the overlay district. So please pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joseph Nicholson.
I agree with what everybody has been saying, everything positive about the ordinance. Can I just pass?
If you'd like your comments to be made part of the record, I have to ask you to step to the podium and state your name for the record.
My name is Joe Nicholson. I'm also with Kiwi Plantation, and I'm in favor of the ordinance for a minimum of 2 houses per acre. We live in a subdivision that has 25 houses in it, and the acreage is a lot larger. But I believe that the stipulations that you have presented would help keep the lake the way it is right now and not have any excess development there that is really not needed. So I'm in favor of that ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have James Thomas Jr.
I'll pass. Already been there.
Okay. Next we have Doyle Carr.
Good morning. My name is Doyle Carr. My wife Judy and I are here this morning to express our opposition to the proposed amendment to Article 38 of the county ordinances. This is not just a clarification of the language. I think it's important to review the history, and I will try to give the Reader's Digest of the attempts to enact zoning for our lakes, and in particular Lake Kiwi, since it is by far the most development. Most of the protracted activity was a result of proposed construction of the Monte Lago 12-story high-rise condo project on Lutherland Road. Because of this opposition to this project, in 2006, Oconee County Council issued an ill-advised 90-day building moratorium for Lake Kiwi. This was followed by an attempt to zone all the areas surrounding Lake Kiwi. One of the main arguments against the zoning was that most of the lake communities, such as the many crescent communities we have the availability through homeowners association covenants, which afforded them the governing ordinances they may deem necessary for their individual circumstances. With the involvement of local attorney Larry Brandt, and the effort to enact zoning was defeated. Mr. Brandt was specifically representing the interests of St. John's Lutheran Church, dealing with the church's property on Biggerstaff Road, but the issues and arguments applied to all the areas in question. I worked closely with Mr. Brandt because the proposed zoning restrictions would have a severe negative financial impact on our properties. In response to the defeat of the zoning in what I call an end-around move, the lake overlay was formed. It is important to review the definition of the overlay. The lake overlay is not intended, and I read from it, the lake overlay is not intended to be a separate zoning district, but shall be assigned to the shoreline areas, plural, of Oconee County lakes that are considered to be vital to the economic prosperity and general well-being of all county citizens. It must be recognized that the definition for which you feel gives you the authority to enact this universal ordinance amendment references specific areas, plural, which should be considered, and is emphatic that the overlay is not intended as a zoning ordinance where one size fits all. The definition also says the individual must be vital, absolutely necessary, essential, or crucial to the economic prosperity. Which areas in this proposed amendment have been determined to be essential, crucial to the economic prosperity? It can't be, by definition, every square inch of property. The definition goes on to say the overlay must address the general well-being of all county citizens, not some, not the elite, not even the majority, but all. Well, Judy and I are citizens of Oconee County, and this amendment, nor the overlay in it, really, in itself benefits us. A couple of questions about the printed information. The amendment proposes that the wording be added that along with some setback dimensions, there will be 1 unit per 1/2 acre of the present language, saying there's a limit of 2 units per acre. Isn't this a little redundant? The amendment states that prior to this third reading, the Oconee County Planning Commission shall review this proposal and issue a recommendation to the council. Has this been done? And if so, what is the recommendations? What if they had 2 recommendations? Folks, we have a terrible divide in Oconee County. And it's not the Republican or Democrats or the Gamecocks and Tigers, but is with the bred and born native residents and us transplants. Judy and I are part of the 30% of the population of Oconee County who are retirees. We have been property owners and or residents in Oconee County for over 30 years, and I still get, you ain't from around here, are you? We moved here because we like the way the folks believe and how they conduct themselves. This chasm is being caused by the folks who move here and want to change this area to reflect the way things should be done to mirror where they move from. So many times I've heard, well, you pick a state, Michigan, Ohio, New Jersey, whatever, this is how we did it back then. My response is, if it was so damn good back there, why are you in here? Not that South Carolinians have all the answers, but I think the adage, when in Rome, do as the Romans, might be appropriate. The county has spent a lot of taxpayer money with administrative time, printing of yard signs, postcards, postage, paying to have the yard signs erected, and the wages of people required to be at the 3 readings of this amendment. My opinion, this is fiduciary folly. This amendment is not needed, unwanted, violates the intent and criteria described in the definition of the overlay district by having not described the areas, plural, of the overlay it should be applied to. It has not been established why this amendment is vital to our economic prosperity, nor how it improves the general well-being of all county citizens. And this is another attempt at overall zoning, and the amendment should be rejected in its entirety. This looks like an ordinance looking for a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kevin Minton.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Minton, and we have owned property in Lake Keowee since 1999. We live here full-time and appreciate the lake for its beauty and pristineness. There's a need for the half-acre ordinance under consideration for 2 key reasons from my perspective. First is to protect the cleanliness of the lake. If their home's located in a high density, close to the lake, using septic systems, it adds risk to the cleanliness of the lake. And second, for the aesthetics. Homes located in high density along the lake shore would detract from the natural beauty of the lake. As a result, I would strongly encourage you to pass this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Gary Hughes.
Again, that must have been a mistake. I'm not sure.
Next is Ron Solensek.
My name is Ron Solensek. I live at 6 Rumrow Court in Keowee Key. One of the things I really enjoy about living in Oconee County is I enjoy kayaking, and particularly on Lake Keowee and Lake Chickasaw. One of the things I really admire about these lakes is the balance in the shoreline between development and the natural environment that exists here. The county council and the zoning board has done a good job at managing development within the Lake Overview District. But as more people learn about the benefits of living in Oconee County in the proximity to Lake Keowee and Lake Chickasaw, there will be increasing development pressure for constructing residences within the Lake Overlay District. The passage of Ordinance 2022-24 will ensure that any future development within the Lake Overview District does not imperil the beauty of the lake shorelines that we all admire and appreciate. As residents of Oconee County and visitors to this area can attest. Therefore, I urge the county council to approve Ordinance 2022-24. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dorothy Hager.
I'll pass, thank you.
Next, we have Ed Halbig.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll yield my time.
Next is Phil Mitchell.
Hi, I'm Phil Mitchell. Mailing address is Salem, South Carolina. I came to this meeting convinced I was in opposition, and then there's people here who I respect, and they're in favor. So I have to admit, I'm a little bit confused about what the intent of this is. What I heard in the lead-in comments were that if we change this, that there's these loopholes that exist now. I'm still not clear exactly what those loopholes, how they're applied. So that continues my confusion. The one thing that I'm still have my position as in opposition to this is the change from the 700 feet barrier to 200 feet. I don't understand really what that gains us, and since I'm a little bit confused about the other part, maybe there's some benefit to that. But Lake Murray sits at around, if I'm correct, at 1,000 feet. When these restrictions were first created about Jocassee and Keowee, it started off, there was a desire for it to be 1,300 feet. And then we went to 700 feet as a compromise, is my understanding. And now we want to move it to 200 feet. I don't understand the benefit, if I'm correct about those numbers. I don't understand the benefit of moving from 700 feet to 200 feet, although I am very much in favor of some of the arguments associated to density and the protection of the lakes. I had one other comment, and it was about the combination of Jocassee and Keowee. I think that fundamentally, that's not good enough for Oconee County. I don't think Jocassee and Keowee should be combined, and I think they should be separate. And I think there should be more stringent requirements on Jocassee than Keowee. And I would like to see some kind of effort by the council to separate those two. And I brought a picture. I don't know how many people have ever seen this, but but it's the essence of what's in my heart. This is a National Geographic magazine cover, and this National Geographic magazine cover refers to Jocassee and the surrounding area, the lake and surrounding area, as 50 of the last great places. Now, I have great love for South Carolina, a long time, my entire life's here, and in the upstate, and at Clemson. And I think Jocassee is special and deserving of what was written in this magazine. And I don't think it should be combined with other things. I think it is a treasure for Oconee County that is beyond belief and should have the most appropriate strict restrictions that there could be, whatever the council would decide that could be, but not combined. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Next, we have Linda Mitchell.
That was a mistake.
All right, next we have Daryl Keese.
Come on, Pius.
Next is Donna Fernari.
My name is Donna Fernari, and I'm here representing the Stone Ledge at Lake Kiwi Board of Directors. On behalf of 80 homeowners in our community, we just wish to express support for ordinance 2022-24. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gary Yantis.
Morning, gentlemen. My name is Jerry Yantis. I am here to represent the Waterford subdivision of 98 homeowners, and we would like to support the revision that's been proposed for the half-acre lots at the waterfront for Kiwi and Jocassee. We see this revision as a vital element to protecting the shoreline beauty of these lakes, as well, and maybe more importantly, the quality of the water that the surrounding communities use. Well, the revisions accomplish a number of objectives. Three of the most important we'd like to emphasize are the revision will sustain the predominant existing density of homes along the shorelines of a half acre or larger by preventing groupings of small lots and small homes at the shoreline. The revision will minimize erosion caused by the removal of trees that will occur when we're building small homes at the waterfront. And the revision will minimize the addition of impervious surface, which increases the risk of water quality due to runoff, such as oil running off of driveways. So we would ask that you please vote for this revision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bryant Hearn.
Yes, my name is Brian Hearn. I live out at Harbor Oaks subdivision. I have two concerns with the way the revision is currently written. One is that it omits the multi-dwelling portion that is in the current approved revision. I'm not sure if that was an oversight or if it was intended to be all-encompassing when it talks about a single lot. So I think that needs to be clarified, that it covers both single-dwelling and multi-dwelling developments. The second thing is, and we've heard a number of people talk about protecting the lake. Well, it's changed from 750, what's in the ordinance today, to 200 feet. 200 feet is about twice the distance, the length of this room. And when builders build along the lake, they don't just build on the shoreline. There will be internal lots. So this opens it up for the internal lots to have, if they have a situation where the lay of the land requires, they could put two houses, but you can't get 2.5 acres, but they could get one in a little over a half acre and the other in a quarter acre. So I think it opens us up to more conflict than the way it's currently written. And the way I hear everyone talking, it was intention originally was for it to be half-acre lots, but as we know through developing, we find ways to make money and kind of twist that around to where we can meet the intent of 2 homes in an acre, but not have a half acre on each one. So I would say that I would request that we include the full layout of 750 feet and that we clarify that it includes both single dwelling and multi-dwelling homes. Thank you.
Next, we have Vicky Hearn.
I'll pass.
Next is David Dewey.
I have no additional comments.
Next is Doug Hettinger.
Yes, good morning. My name's Doug Hettinger. I live in the Windward Point subdivision of 117 lots and represent the Windward Point Board of Directors. We support the ordinance change. It's a way to minimize the impact of sewage, stormwater runoff, and will improve the water quality, continue to improve the water quality of Lake Kiwi. We were all surprised that the current overlay is currently red, looks at 2 residences per acre. We think that this change clarifies that and it's the right thing to do. So in summary, we support and ask you to vote yes on the ordinance change. Thank you.
Next is Brian Hornbeck.
I'll yield my time.
Next is Robbie Jackson.
I'm sorry, that was a mistake.
Next is Gary Jackson.
I'll pass.
James Davis. James Davis. All right. James Schoonover.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm Jim Schoonover, a lakefront homeowner in Windward Point. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my opinion. I've lived here for 19 years and I love this lake and its surroundings. I felt this area was special when I first saw it over 24 years ago, and I still feel it's a special place. I sincerely hope it will continue to be a special place. Although this ordinance is a subtle change, I feel it is important. By reading the existing ordinance, one would think that each lot size would have to be 1/2 acre or more, and this is not entirely correct. Since several comments have already covered what I was previously going to say, I'll skip that. But I will say a home on a 1/4 acre lot does just not represent the picture this pristine lake has come to represent. It could also affect property values of nearby homes. With different minimum lot sizes, requirements, and different zoning classifications, this amendment provides clarification and standardization. And I would like to say that people who talk about the 200 and the 750 foot setback haven't really read and understood what this ordinance says. This is just a small portion of the 750 feet. I feel this is very important and urge you to vote yes on the ordinance. And I'm going to miss seeing you, Paul, in the future.
Thank you. Next, we have Fred Michaels.
Good morning. My name is Fred Michaels. I live on Barnes Road in Seneca. And I consider reacting to this ordinance based on the principles that are in the existing ordinance. And the intent of that, if I can briefly describe them, are to improve and protect water quality, to maintain the natural beauty,
and to limit secondary impacts of all new development and the enjoyment of the lake by all Oconee County citizens. If I look at the proposed ordinance, it would appear that in 3 of the 4, it supports this new ordinance clarification to half acre. First, on water quality, doubling the density potentially, in certain places means it's more intensive use of septic systems and water runoff, and all of those things are potentially detrimental to water quality. In terms of natural beauty, if we start having different and more viewing lanes in a particular part of the lake, and you just start to eliminate the natural plants, which means natural beauty. And so in that case, I believe that the ordinance would protect that more, those original intents. The secondary impact of those that are on the lake, certainly if there's a concentration in an area where we have more than a quarter or less than a quarter, less than 2 or 1/2 acre, it will concentrate the people in those areas, and I think will limit the lifestyle. Regarding the last intent of the existing ordinance, it was for improving Oconee County for all citizens. And in that case, I really can't make the case this ordinance changes that. I would ask that they consider this, just per the last speaker, the 750 versus the 200. I think a clarification needs to be there. I don't have that big a lot, but I have way more than 200 feet from the lakefront to the end of the property. And so I'm a little confused as to whether that's going to make an impact or not. Thank you for this opportunity. I wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank you. Next, we have Jude Calabra. I'm sorry, I can't read this. Calabra.
Joe?
Joe?
Joe. It's like Joe Calabro to me.
All right. Martha File. Martha File.
He left.
Oh. Jermaine McSwain. Sharon Hamilton.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Sharon Hamilton. I'm a longtime resident of the Port Santorini neighborhood, one of the oldest on the lake. I'm also on the board of the Lake Keowee Source Water Protection Team. I am here to say I support this ordinance as it's written. I think it's important to keep the consistency of the lakefront lots is to avoid the increased density that would be potentially harmful to the lake and also to the quality of the water, which is important for, it's important for our economy to have good water. Our water is a water source for not only Oconee County, but for a great part of Greenville County. So I just want to speak to reiterate what everybody else has said in support of it, and so I'm asking you to support this ordinance. Thank you for your service, and thank you, especially Mr. King, for your service.
Thank you. Next, we have Larry Day.
I'm Larry Day. I'm a resident of Port Santorini. I don't want to reiterate many of the concerns that were raised by previous speakers, but just to say that I do support this revision. I think it eliminates a potential loophole and clarifies that homes should be on 1/2 acre lakefront lots. Thank you very much.
Jackie Broom.
I have no comment at the present time.
And finally, Jim Codner.
Mr. Chairman and members of council, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Jim Codner. I'm a resident of the South Cove area, been there for 24 years. Just like to clarify a couple of things about this ordinance as I understand it. First of all, the lake overlay has always been part of the zoning ordinance and has always extended 750 feet from the lakefront. The 200 feet in the ordinance is just to say the first lakefront lots need to be a half acre. If they start on the lakefront, that's fine. But if there's common open space along the lakefront, up to 200 feet, then the first lots back have to be a half acre. This does not change the density requirements in the overlay. Density requirements are still 2 per acre. It's going to change, and that will protect the pristine quality of the lake as we know it. I guess I won't reiterate anything else. I just urge you to vote yes on ordinance 2022-24. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And that was the final person that signed up, but given the fact that some of y'all aren't aware of the procedures we have here, if anyone else would like to come speak in opposition or support or ask a question for the council to respond to during our discussion, please come forward. Please state your name for the record.
Merry Christmas, everyone. My name's David McMahon. I've listened to a couple of folks out here that was hitting on the point that I'm fixing to make. I think the problem would be solved if people would enforce the vegetative buffer around the lake. I own property. I got lakefront property on Kiwi, and Councilman Hart's been on my property. I have pristine oak trees, vegetative buffers there. I don't put any chemicals, pesticides on my property because I want my children to be able to have clean drinking water. So I understand that people are concerned about lots per size and whatnot. I am too. I would ask that anybody to practice what they preach about vegetative buffers. If we don't, we're going to have a problem one day when our water might not be as clean as it should. Anybody can come to my property and see that I practice what I preach. My vegetative buffers is intentionally double what is required. So I want us to have good, clean drinking water, and there's folks in this room who violate the vegetative buffer. I know. I can look across my property and see where people have just scraped the land all the way to the lake, and they don't care about violating that buffer. I know that Duke Energy is supposed to enforce that. I hope that the county would work with Duke Energy to maybe try to enforce that too. Let's have drinking water, good, clean drinking water for our children. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to comment? Yes, ma'am.
Morning. My name is Dorothy Hager. I just want to reiterate what that one gentleman said about keeping Lake Jocassee as a separate entity and treating it as the special place that it is, and hopefully limit the development on that lake. Thank you.
Any other folks that would like to comment? All right. This concludes public hearing for third reading of ordinance 2022-24. Close the public hearing. No one is signed up for public hearing for ordinance 2022-28. If anyone would like to speak regarding that ordinance, please step forth. Close public hearing for ordinance 2022-28. No one is signed up for public hearing of ordinance 2022-30. If you would like to make a comment, please step forward at this time. I close public comment for ordinance 2022-30. And finally, we have public hearing for ordinance 2022-33. No one has signed up, but if you'd like to make a comment, please step forward at this time. I close public close public hearing for ordinance 2022-33. And now we have third and final reading of ordinance 2022-24. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We've got two motions to approve and 1 second, so I think it's on the floor. Any discussion regarding this?
Yes, I'd like to thank the public for coming out and force opposition and for it. I think that's great that we get citizens involved. And I also want to say that Mr. Cogner is right that nothing has changed for the lake overlay. It's still 750 feet. This is just 200 feet from the 804 line where we're restricting it to 1/2 acre minimum lots. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Vice Chairman, one thing I wanted to state, growing up here, I can remember when there was little to no development. I don't want to say no development because there's always been houses since I've been around, 42 years old. But I can remember each subdivision coming in place, and the older I've got, I've seen more and more houses, and our area has been discovered. It's great to see the amount of people that have enjoyed calling a Oconee County home just like I do. And I made a choice to stay here. A lot of y'all made a choice to retire here, and several of your families have moved here to start jobs and stuff like that, which is awesome. And within regards to that, keeping this area, beautiful, and I realize how blessed I am because I know all of y'all are here because of the lake and because of Oconee County. So within regards to that, those protections are great, and I appreciate those coming forward to support this. I'm not in favor of of this lot trending outside of that, especially in our district, out in District 4, which is the farming area out there. But I am in favor of this ordinance here as it regards to the lake overlay, and appreciate all those that have reached out to me in support of it. Actually, I've had, 40 or 50 people just call me just to have some great comments. So I appreciate that involvement. That's the way it always is. I appreciate the staff putting that stuff out there, the mailers, the text messages I've got, asking questions. That's the way we want government to work as well. So thankful for that, and thank you for all being here, and I do plan to vote in favor of this ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Well, I intend to vote for it, but to me, this is a vegetable burger instead of a hamburger, because this is redundant of what was there. You got two lots per acre, and then you got it to where you got one house per half acre. I'm a surveyor. If you got 1 acre in the right situations, if your house is located on it, I can make another house go on it. So keep that in mind when I tell you it's a veg hamburger. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I just want to clarify a couple things that were said during public comment. First off, I agree Lake Jocassee is a jewel of this area. It's probably one of the most beautiful, it is one of the most beautiful places in the world, and we certainly should protect it. This ordinance does not address Lake Jocassee differently, and for us to amend that at this point, this late in the game, would not be appropriate and probably would technically be illegal, if I had to guess.
Correct.
So, that can certainly be brought forth at the planning commission level or at the committee level next year. And then two other concerns. With regard to the overlay, I think it's already been stated, but the 750 acres is in D1 of the ordinance. That is not amended or changed at all as part of this amendment. That, I'll read it just so y'all know. Kiwi, Jocassee overlay, Lakes Kiwi and Jocassee. The following standards shall apply within 750 feet of the full pond contour of Lake Kiwi and Lake Jocassee to be measured along a perpendicular line for the full pond contour. The next section is what is being amended. It currently reads, no single-family or multifamily development shall have a net density greater than 2 dwelling units per acre within the boundary of the overlay. The overlay is defined in the former paragraph, so that's not amended. To that point, there was concern of multifamily not being mentioned in the amendment, but the way the amendment reads, let me get to that. Lots that are created subsequent to the effective date of this ordinance and which exist in whole or in part within 200 feet of a full pond contour of Lake Kiwi or Lake Jocassee shall be no less than 1/2 acre in size, with a maximum density of 1 dwelling unit per 1/2 acre. Lots located fully within the remaining boundaries of the Lake Overlay District are limited to a net density of no greater than 2 dwelling units per acre. As I understand it, multifamily developments consist of multiple units within a single development or within a single structure. So that would be covered under this ordinance, so there's no need to specify between single family or multifamily. So if it's a duplex that is constructed, and it would be restricted within the first 200 feet. You could not have a duplex, I believe. Mr. Root, is that correct?
Well, consistent with this, you couldn't have, it's just, a lot has to be 1/2 acre within the 200 feet, we call it the lakefront area. I think if you were gonna do a duplex and have 2 units, that duplex could potentially, depending on the underlying zoning district, could potentially, if it was allowable, be in a whole acre, so you could have.
In 1 acre, yes. But you could not have 2 units as proposed by the amendment within a 1/2 acre.
Correct.
You'd have to use a full acre for waterfront, or within 200 feet, because not all 200 feet are waterfront. Outside of the first 200 feet, the net density may be no more than 2 units per acre. So that, whether it's multifamily or single family, that remains unchanged. And that's stated in the amendment language. So lots located fully within the remaining boundaries of the lake overlay, so the next 550 feet are limited to a net density of no greater than 2 dwelling units per acre. So once again, multifamily would fall under this 2 units per acre and would be restricted from any more units than that per acre. So I hope that clarifies those questions and misunderstanding regarding the amendment. Is there any more discussion on the ordinance 2022-24 on third reading? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed?
This is John Harrod. I vote for it.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. Next up, we have third and final reading of ordinance 22-28, which is an ordinance.
Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yes.
we'll take a 2-minute recess. I know people probably want to leave after that.
Sure.
Like me and Mr. Hart will let the rest of us.
All right, let's take a 5-minute I hear a motion to reconvene?
Make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Back in session. So next we have third and final reading of ordinance 2022-28, which is an ordinance to appropriate and authorize expenditure of up to $2 million of local coronavirus fiscal recovery funding under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 for purposes of providing additional funding for the Sewer South project and other matters related thereto. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Next, we have third and final reading of ordinance 2022-30, which is an ordinance to appropriate and authorize the expenditure of $640,166 of local coronavirus fiscal recovery funding received under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 for construction of the Bangland Fire Station and other matters related thereto. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Okay, motion
Second.
I'll
Any-
second, Mr. Elliott.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir. I am pleased to see Bangland Fire Station come through. I'm happy with the site choice, Ms. Brock and your staff. I appreciate all that y'all have done. Maranatha Church, I appreciate their partnership with the county. I think that is a great location. Definitely is a better location than coming off of South Cove Road. I'm thankful for the citizens' patience as we move forward with that, but just to know that council definitely had the best interest in mind in selecting that. We're also going to serve some underserved areas out there, which will help out and provide a lot of added protection in a growing area. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And to your point, unfortunately, the costs of this, like sewer, fire station costs have increased substantially more than they originally were, like everything else in this world, it seems, which we did not know was going to happen, obviously. Had we known, we would have pulled the trigger on not as good a site, so to speak. This is a much better, this is the best site for this fire station, considering the ingress and egress, much easier to get in and out. But it's going, to Mr. Davis's point, going to reduce the ISO ratings for those in that area that are served by that, which will thereby decrease their homeowners insurance and their commercial property insurance. So it's a lot of money up front, but the taxpayers should see savings going forward once that is constructed. Fills in a big hole in our fire plan. All right, any other comments or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, thank you. Ordinance 2022-33 on third reading. Ordinance, this is to authorize the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and special source revenue credit agreement by and between Oconee County, South Carolina, and Carolina Poly Incorporated, acting for itself, one or more current or future affiliates and other project companies, collectively the company, and providing for a fee in lieu of ad valorem tax incentive, providing for a special source revenue credit, providing for the location of the company's property in a joint county industrial business park between Oconee County and Pickens County and other matters related thereto. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. I would like to thank Carolina Poly for coming in there and investing in Oconee County. It's always, when you lose in industry, it's great for another one to come right in behind it. And I think they're keeping the majority of employment, looking at expanding employment opportunities based on what we've seen. So I really appreciate them choosing Oconee County and keeping that building occupied. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes, sir. And I echo your thanks to Carolina Poly for continuing the operations there at that site. We much appreciate that, and the employees they're going to keep, and the continued investment they're going to make in the county. So thank you to Carolina Poly for your investment. Any other discussion on this ordinance? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That is for O.
Okay. Next, we have second reading of ordinance 2022-31. Ordinance to acknowledge and authorize the execution of the intergovernmental agreement between Oconee County and the City of Walhalla for the provision of a county magistrate to act as a municipal judge for the City of Walhalla and other matters related thereto. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion on this ordinance? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 It's unanimous.
That is for O.
All right, that's our final ordinance for the evening, or for the morning. Discussion regarding action items. This is for the purchase of a 2023 Ford F-250 pickup truck, an F-450 pickup truck, and an F-550 pickup truck. The budgeted amount is $203,388. Project cost $203,388, leaving no balance. It's the staff's recommendation that council approve the purchase of an F-250 for facilities, an F-450 for roads and bridges, and an F-550 for emergency services from Vic Bailey Ford of Spartanburg, South Carolina, in the amount of $203,388. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you to our purchasing and procurement department for their hard work.
Just a minute, Mr. Vice Chair. These were previously approved in January of 2022. They're not going to be manufactured as our previous contract for purchase. These are the same vehicles we brought back, just a tweak in the model and make, because the ones we had previously been approved to order are not being manufactured on board.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 That is for O.
Thank you. Finally, we have an executive session item regarding economic development matter, Project Terminus. Do I hear a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussion of?
Mr. Vice Chair, may I interrupt?
Yes.
I'm in the car with my family, so I'm gonna not be in executive session.
Okay. All right. Well, John, you also have a safe trip and a Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Merry Christmas.
All right.
Motion to enter executive session.
Second.
Did you want to make the motion to include Mr. Mize?
Yes.
Yeah, motion to include Councilman-elect Mr. Don Mize.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, no action was taken in executive session. Do I hear a motion to reconvene out of executive session?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Again, no action was taken in executive session. Mr. Root, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, do need a motion in relation to Project Terminus to instruct staff to proceed with negotiations as discussed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.